My name is Joe and I'm a flight instructor. If this is your first time here, welcome. If it's not, welcome back to the channel. Please make sure you click that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 things I regret the most from my flight training to help you avoid those. So, let's get started. All right, so as I said, we're going to talk about the 5 things I regret the most from my flight training, so that way, hopefully, I can help you avoid those pitfalls and those same regrets I have. So let's start at number 5 and work backwards. Number 5 is I wish I bought a plane. I regret that I didn't buy a plane and do my training in that. I believe in full transparency, and I've been very transparent on this channel here before. And I told you I'd have to run the numbers again. It was roughly $75,000 to $80,000 to get to where I am today, sitting as a CFI, CFII. I do not have my multi-engine, and I do not have my multi-engine instructor at this point. So those will be added expenses later. But I spent all of that money, and 2/3 of it, at the very least, was airplane rental. Had I just gone out and bought myself a Piper Cherokee 140 or a Cessna 172, something, at least I'd be able to recoup that money or be able to rent it out at this point or teach in it. I'd have a lot more options than just money given away for a rental to a flight school. So essentially, I came close to buying an airplane for them. I have nothing to show for it other than my ratings. They have an airplane that they can keep making money off of. So that's regret number 5 for me, is I wish I bought an airplane to do my training in from the very beginning. Number 4, I wish I was better at networking and I did more through my flight training. My flight training, I would go in, I would meet with my instructor, do what I had to do the flying, do the ground, do the studying, and I would leave. I wouldn't really talk to anybody at the school. I never really connected with anybody. I just kind of wanted to do my thing, and I wanted to go. What I do regret is not making more of those connections, because, again, those connections can help you throughout stages of your career. A lot of people I went to school with, they're flight instructors like I am now. Some of them are off to the regionals. I think 1 or 2 are at the majors now. One's a chief pilot. So there's a lot of people, and again, like when I'm talking, I'm not just talking students, I'm talking other instructors, other people with the school. So you never know like who you're going to run into, and to be quite honest with you and transparent again, is I'm okay talking to the camera like this. If we have a flight instruction set up and we meet for that flight instruction, I'm okay going and doing that. But if you just see me in public, I'm very introverted, and I'm very socially awkward. So if you run into me in public and it's just a random encounter, I'm sorry, but it's probably going to be awkward. That's just kind of the way I am, the way I've always been. But when we kind of have like a set topic that we're talking about, whether it's flight training or anything else that we have in common, like I'm much better and more outgoing and extroverted within those areas. But when you catch me off guard, I'm pretty introverted, pretty socially awkward. So it's just kind of one of those things. So networking doesn't come easy to me. Number 3, I wish and I regret that I didn't do more research and fight for better CFIs throughout my training. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say my CFIs were bad and that or anything like that. I had some really good CFIs. But throughout my journey, I did get placed with other CFIs, you know, for stage checks, or somebody had a day off or they're out sick or something like that. I got to experience what it was like with other instructors. And what I regret is not fighting for some of those other instructors. Some of them were better than what I had. Some of them were much worse than what I had. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to drop schools. where these people are or aren't or anything like that, because that's not what this video is about. What I'm saying is kind of stand up for yourself, push for what you want and what you need. It's your money at the end of the day. You are the customer. A lot of schools are going to tell you, hey, you're going with this instructor because guess what? They're next up on the rotation or whatever. Guess what? You're paying them. Don't accept that. Sure, by all means, try that instructor. See if it's a fit or not. If it's not a fit, speak up and fight for what you want and the instructor that you want. Again, I had some really good instructors, but I mean, there were some bad ones that I ran into just kind of on a lesson here and a lesson there, and they were terrible. And then next thing I knew, I was getting put with them for a lesson again and a lesson again, and I really should have spoke up more. And that's a regret that I have, is that to me was kind of money wasted with those instructors because I didn't learn very much from them. So it was more or less just kind of getting flight time, filling out my logbook, and waiting for my main instructors to come back. So make sure you stand up for yourself. Make sure you fight for what you need and what you deserve, because again, you're the paying customer. It's your money. Number 2, and I'm sure this one is going to get me some heat, I guess you can say, here in the local market, but one of my regrets is changing flight schools. I was in one flight school, private, instrument, and commercial. I changed flight schools for my CFI, which looking back, I wish I never did. And then I went back to my original flight school for my CFII, which I was very happy with. The reason I say I regret changing flight schools isn't for any problem with the flight school or with the instructors or anything like that. It was just, I had financed my training, I had a loan, and that loan was to get me through CFII. When I left after commercial to go get my CFI at another school, there were some things said to me that kind of led to me to kind of go and do that. Well, I lost my loan at that point, so I started having to pay out of pocket, which wasn't that big of a deal, but it got a little bit more expensive than I wanted to, and then at that point, and I had to pay for CFII out of pocket, because again, I lost my loan, which my loan would have covered all of this had I just stayed at my initial school and went that route. So because I changed schools and because I paid out of pocket, I ran into what a lot of people run into with flight training. You run out of money. So when I ran out of money, I couldn't fly. I couldn't train. So that one little decision to change flight schools for one rating, whether it be a broken promise that was made to me or some other things that were kind of mixed into it, because there was a whole lot behind that decision. Read into that what you will. It set me back a year in my career. Here I am at the end of 2024, and guess what? Exactly 1 year ago, in October of 2023, I got my commercial rating. Had I just stayed there, I probably would have been a CFII in probably January or February, because I got my CFI in December. And I'd be a lot farther ahead in my career than I currently am. So essentially it falls on me. That was my decision. I short-term thinking instead of playing the long game with it. So that is a big regret. But if you're at a place that's not terrible, you're getting good instruction, you have good airplanes and stuff like that, don't switch unless you absolutely have to. So that's a very big regret for me. I should have stayed where I started and kind of finished from there. The number one regret that I have through my flight training, and I see this with a lot of students all over the place, everybody talks about it, and from what I understand is a lot of people end up having this very same regret. It's not taking my time and enjoying the flight training and being a student. I was one of those students that was like, well, I want to get to my solo as fast as I can. I want to get to my check ride as fast as I can. I want to get my instrument check ride. I want to get my commercial. I want to be a CFI. I want to be a CFII. I want to do it fast, 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 fast. And I did. I did my first solo was at 13 hours, and it was only that late in hours because it was a 141 program, and I had to go by the syllabus. I did my private check ride at 35 hours, which is allowed with the 141 syllabus. 35 hours later, I took my instrument check ride. Again, that's allowed with the 141 syllabus that I worked under. I then went and kind of rented some planes. I joined some rental clubs and stuff and kind of flew a little bit. So I put like 10 more hours in my logbook there. So now I'm sitting at 80 hours in my logbook at that point. I got into commercial, and because it was a 141 program again, I only needed to do 120 hours within that syllabus. And I did that within 120 hours, right at the minimums again. So I did my check ride for commercial at 200 hours in my logbook. Sure, I could have done it in 190 had I not done the other flight, the other rental companies and stuff like that, and just kind of flying and kind of learning different aircraft. But then I also was a CFI and a CFII, all under 235 hours in my logbook. Yes, it would have cost me more, but I wish I slowed down. And the reason I speak to that and slowing down and enjoying it, they're kind of two different things. Obviously, you want to enjoy the flight training. You want to enjoy flying. I mean, that's why you got into it, is because it's fun. So just going up there and training and training and training and training, eventually it's going to lose its fun. So I wish I enjoyed it more, took some more like fun trips with rentals and stuff like that throughout my training. But as far as like racing through the ratings and stuff, I've come to learn as a flight instructor that a lot was missed within my training. A lot of schools that I've interacted with, they train to the check ride. So they find out who the DPE is, or they have a handful of DPEs. They know what they ask. They get what's called a gouge on them. They know what they ask. They know what they look for, and they train you to that. So that way you can go and you can pass and you can get that certificate and you can move on. You're not getting thorough knowledge of everything. You're not reaching the level of understanding on everything. You're learning what it is you're going to be tested on and how to pass that test. So, as a flight instructor going through everything, training for my CFI and for my CFII, and now working with students, I have found a ton of gaps in my knowledge and in my training. So I work myself for the ground portion to kind of fill those in. I work with another friend that's a flight instructor to kind of fill in the flight portions and stuff like that. But it was one of those things, had I slowed down and just taken my time getting through it, maybe we could have filled in those blanks a little bit more throughout my training, or who knows, maybe it still would have just been harping on what it was to get me to pass the check ride. I think that's going to kind of be school dependent on the way they're going to train you. They're going to weigh it and their way that they're going to deal with that. But pump the brakes. It's your own race. You're not competing with anybody else. Make sure you get that knowledge, especially if you want to turn this into a career. Make sure that way you have the knowledge that you can be as safe of a pilot as possible. So again, that is my number one regret. I regret not slowing down, taking my time, getting more higher level of understanding of the knowledge and proficiency within the airplane, and just not enjoying it more, just kind of making it like a job and grinding through those ratings and stuff like that. So I hope with this video and my regrets, you can kind of take a piece of this to help yourself through your trainings. That way you have less regrets when you get to wherever it is you want to go and you're reflecting back on your training. I want you to be safe. I want you to be happy and healthy. I want you to be proficient. I want you to make sure that you have the knowledge that you have. So if you enjoyed this video and it helped in any way, check out this video here on the screen, and I'll see you next time.